This episode is brought to you by the European Coworking Assembly. We are everything Coworking Europe. If you head to the Coworking Assembly website, you can connect with our World Coworking, European Freelancers Week, Coworking Symposium, Coworking Library, and Coworking Tools.
Hello, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of the Co-working Values podcast. And I, in my cloud studio, whatever you want to call it, is Suzanne. And Suzanne, have we ever met in real life? I know I've met Patrick, but I'm trying to remember if I met you.
Yeah, we met at one of the co-working conferences. Oh, it was in Dublin.
Yes,
was that 2017, 18?
That was, I should know that, shouldn't I?
I feel like I know you from all your LinkedIn and your podcasts, etc.
Me too. And I often get, because I have a friend, and then we'll get to introducing you. I have a friend who runs a co-working space in Newbury, which is in Berkshire, and I always get confused about the Newry and Newbury. And
it's a few miles away from there.
It is, isn't it? So Suzanne, now I've messed up the intro. Like, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
That's a very good question. Well, just a little bit about my background, I guess. I've been in the flexible workplace for just over 10 years now, and we have co-founded the Hub Newry back in 2012, which is not near Newbury. It is between Dublin and Belfast, Northern Ireland. And I guess I've been doing a lot of work as a certified coach mentor lately, really around helping business owners and teams with their hybrid working strategy. The whole piece for me is around the values, the goal, the alignment, and asking those deeper questions about workplace requirements, both at the business level and then at the individual level as well. So personalities, what are their requirements, both the job function, personalities, values, etc., and really helping nurture those connections and help finding their best natural workplace environments to put them at ease and really help their optimization and performance. So that's where I'm going at the moment. But I don't know, in a lot of conversations at the moment I'm having, it's really about the ecosystems they're in, the environments they're in, and really letting different personalities find their voice and put their ideas forward. Because you get a lot of introverts like myself who perhaps in a previous life or career found it really difficult to vocalize what their thoughts and ideas were. But now it just seems to be happening in a different way. I think with the onset of the likes of flexible workplace environments, it gives them the ability to work in a safer space for them, surround themselves with more like-minded people, and you naturally feel more at ease. I think employers are embracing those different workplaces as well. I think there's the onset of coaching in a lot of different businesses, which really help ask those deeper questions and bring out thoughts and ideas that perhaps people didn't even have before, or they did have, but they hadn't come to the surface. So there's lots of different reasons. And I just think the whole workplace is transforming at a massive pace at the moment, and there's some really exciting stuff going on.
The one consistent thing that comes up when I say conversations, usually it's in this podcast, is about people. I'm going to say psychological safety, but which I deeply believe in, but that's sort of becoming a word that people throw around. But particularly women or neurodiverse people, which is another bit of a dangerous word, feel like at home because they're able to pick where they are, and they can go somewhere that they choose. That is still a desk and a chair and an internet connection, but it's not like, you might be really good at sales, and if you had to walk into a Wolf of Wall Street environment, you'd last like 3 seconds because and I'm not sure, maybe you can answer this, like how much responsibility is it for an employer to optimize a workspace for, if you try and optimize it for everybody, is that just nuts?
I think it's very hard for them to optimize it like blanket stereotype. I think that the bigger thing is to ask or to really understand those individuals within your team, a personal level, and what are their individual requirements as a person, as a, have they got dependents? there's different responsibilities, and then at a job functionality level, I think different teams, and even within teams within a big global organization, for example, they all have different requirements to really optimize their output. So I think that's key, is having those one-on-ones and really checking in with individuals, and allowing them to understand where the business is going, what are the goals, what are the business values, and making sure that they're aligned with each other, and keep checking in there and asking them what their ideas are. I think it's just that constant two-way feedback.
Something I'm dying to ask you. I remember probably in like 2013, Patrick was one of the first people I'd heard that said he had a huge organization that came to work in your co-working space. Would it have been 2014, or was that too early? It was a long time ago. Yeah, and they came in. It was a big organization that everyone uses, and they came in and they measured the distance between the desks and everything. And he was in this. I remember he was in this like unconference session at Co-working Europe, and everyone was like really trying to get big companies into their space, and he was the only one in the room that had done it. And everyone's like, "What? The little place from Ireland? Yeah, we do it all the time, you know." And then I often think about that with great warmth. And then suddenly big companies are, you know, like big companies are looking for co-working spaces rather than co-working spaces looking for big companies. And there's somewhere in here, there's a question, I promise. Like, what has happened to you folks as the onslaught? Yeah, the onslaught of companies come into work as opposed to freelancers and micro businesses.
I think the whole COVID and the Brexit thing had a massive impact in a positive way here. I think we all thought, beep. Don't know if I can swear or not on this.
It was
when it happened. I mean, the amount of all of that. The amount of unknowns at the time was shit, but in hindsight, it was a brilliant. It really helped in a big way. Yeah, when we started off, there was a lot of freelancers, one-man bands. But the other thing is our location, because we're slap bang on the border between north, south, between UK, Europe. That's really played to our advantage. So we've naturally had those bigger businesses wanting to expand and even just have that virtual registered office presence, the corporations. So that's helped.
So don't people drive across the border to your place?
They do, but there's the whole for workers, remote workers. There's the tax compliance. There's the IP address issue as well. So for a lot of corporates, say take KPMG, I think if you live south of the border, say Dublin, Drogheda, and you're employed by a UK employer, you have to be working under a UK IP address. And then there's the tax compliance side with the euro sterling issue as well.
Yeah, now we moved to Spain. If we moved to Spain before Brexit, it would have been really easy. And now it is the most complicated, convoluted thing ever. And I'm going to stop talking about my Brexit experience before that's a whole thing. So what do you remember the whole thing about like co-working spaces are good for startups, but startups aren't necessarily good for co-working spaces because they grow and grow and grow, and then they just get too big and move somewhere else. Like, you know, how do you think about a bigger company coming into a co-working space like yours?
So we now, I think our member makeup is actually predominantly bigger corporates. Now, that's not to say teams are working here. They're more individual corporate remote workers from bigger companies. But when we initially started up, we had a few startups. I wouldn't say we had a lot, or certainly one-man bands, and they grew at quite a rapid pace because they naturally had that support, nurturing network and the right environments to help them grow. And then we were lucky enough to be able to roll out Abbey Yard, which was our second space, and that gave them that opportunity for more private office spaces, but still within that community feel. So we've naturally evolved with our member base in quite an organic way. And then our main space at the moment, Margaret Street, would predominantly be corporate remote workers, but we still have local businesses as well.
So with kind of corporate-y, corporate and company people mixing with freelancers. How do you concoct that member experience? Because I've been in so many co-working spaces, and there's been, as a member, and I helped run one in Euston Street in London, and there were people who work for a company, and their agenda was different from people that were just, if you were an individual worker or part of a 2-person business, you go to the space for a different type of community than you would if you work for a company. And how do you balance that out nowadays?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because a lot of the remote workers aren't necessarily in the community aspect. They just want really good infrastructure, facilities at their fingertips. So that's when that whole conversation we were having about human interaction versus AI. I think it's key when you're bringing on board new members that you obviously meet them before they sign up, to make sure it's a good fit for them and you as a flex space. And we're really lucky that actually our members gel really well, and a lot of them we've had since the beginning. So whoever's coming in next, what sort of feel that you need to get from them. And it's not for everyone. I think you have to be brave and say no to a lot of people. It's not going to be the best fit, and then know how to signpost up to other spaces, for example. But I think certainly in the last couple of years, we've brought on a lot of AI, remote access, etc., which has freed us up to get to know the members that bit better, individual teams, what their requirements are, who they want to be connected with, and the events, etc.
What is because what is AI remote access? Because whenever I say remote access to people, they go, "What?" And I say it's like a door lock or something.
Well, I'll probably be corrected by someone here when I say AI. We'll scrap the AI bit and just say remote access. So, for example, they can use keycard access. So I haven't got to be at the door and let them in. It's 24/7 access, and then each one of the offices have got their own access systems. And if for any instance they get locked out, I can remote them in as well. So it's just at your fingertips when it works. That is, which is most of the time.
Good comeback. This good job. We're not on the access control sponsored podcast. What is so when you take people, because that being brave thing is really important, because I've absolutely seen people let anyone into their co-working space and then wonder why there's this disconnect in the community. So in your experience, when do you decide, or when does someone decide that it's not for them? Is it like on the tour, or when they're in there, or like what's the biggest drop off point?
Well, you hope that it's on the tour. In an ideal world, it would be on the tour for both parties. But sometimes, I'm not saying we haven't taken people on board and it hasn't been the best fit. And generally, they have dropped off after a couple of months. And yeah, you do get your current members with niggly issues. So it can be a bit touch and go for a while, but you just have to learn to manage expectations on both sides and just do your best. I haven't got the perfect answer.
I think that's a gut feel thing, and as I've got a bit older, my gut's been a bit more ruder. Like, you sure this is for you? And giving people an out. But it's been a long time since I've actually had to do a co-working space tour, and feeding my family depends on whether that person signs up or not. So
they generally seem to be the people that want everything yesterday and need an awful lot of hand holding.
So that was one of my other favorite questions. Is there do you have a, when you're building your community or getting new members in, do you rely on, I don't want to say rely, but like I'm trying to say how to say it nicely, are desk booking apps part of what serve you well, or is it all direct referral and attracting your own stuff?
Yeah, generally direct referral, website, and then word of mouth. We actually don't have a desk booking app. Most of our space is actually private office spaces. We have some office shares, but when we renovated during COVID, we got rid of our open plan areas. So yeah, we're quite lucky at the moment in that we're almost full to capacity, but we don't have a desk booking system. That's not to say they don't work. I know lots of people that have them and they work brilliantly, but certainly with the bigger spaces.
Yeah, there's. Well, I ask that because quite often people say people that are very community focused, and this is something I only found out before in 2019 actually, before I start looking like I've done hours of research. Is people said we want to build a community, and people that come in and use the space for one or two times and then go don't add to our community, and that's those people were in spaces where they wanted to, they were in a community area of the city rather than outside Liverpool Street Station. The other thing is, where with all you've been through, growing a co-working space and COVID and Brexit and stuff like that, and the amount of attention you spend on the flexible workspace thing, what are your hopes for the next 2 years?
I guess with everything that's going on in the general workplace at the moment, I just see it transforming even more than it already is. And I think offering people options within businesses, that whole hybrid option, I just want that to be a permanent feature, and really getting to know individuals and understanding what works best for them and giving them that voice. And if everyone's working, I mean, I said this the other day, if everyone's working in their really best natural environment and they've got that voice, imagine the wonderful things that could happen in the whole workplace, the creativity and the output that we could get.
So what I totally agree with that, but instead of that, what have they got at the moment?
I think a lot of employers haven't embraced this whole hybrid working. They don't understand it. They don't know what the options are. So you've still got a lot of people trapping to the headquarters, commuting unnecessarily, not even necessarily got the right infrastructure. They're not working around those people that really get them, listen to them, support them. And you've got people who are still based at home, for example, who have maybe got long COVID, that are very able and want to work, but they can't. You've written off half the workforce. You've got this whole talent attraction retention issue because a lot of employers aren't looking wide enough for a geographical pool and giving them those flexible options. There's a lot of issues that still need teased out, and some education that needs to happen around the whole flexible workplace, hybrid workplace.
Why at this? Because I'm still amazed that is how much of a conversation, particularly LinkedIn is where I follow that the most. And I often wonder if it's just like, because I follow a load of, workplace commentators, and then I'm always aware that I follow a load of workplace commentators that are in my kind of, what do you call it, bubble. But what? Sorry to hesitate. Like, why is it still a debate in 2023 when it's been like there's so much evidence to the contrary? It seems like everyone goes out, because all you hear about is like, Twitter, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg demanded all their people be in the office, and someone else in New York, was it Morgan Stanley or someone? And then everyone thinks,
yeah, Lloyd's have just, was it Lloyd's just? No, one of the banks other than Morgan Stanley. But I think there's that whole thing, people just assume remote working is working from home. There aren't any other options. It's sitting on that kitchen chair huddled over, bad ergonomics. And people haven't necessarily given them those specific solutions, which to us in the industry are really obvious, but not necessarily out there in that ecosystem where those employers are sitting.
I was because if someone said, "Oh, how do you work?" I would just say I work in a co-working space, and then when I got a bit more pushed on it, I realised that I have been, I've done jobs and events and stuff in London, so it'd be inauthentic to say I'm location independent. But pretty much everything I've done since 2008 has been as part of a remote team, and it happened so quickly that I just, I'm used to, logging into, used to be Skype, and then it was Google Hangouts, and that's just how I worked. And when COVID came around, I remember in March 2020, for a lot of people who are not in our remote world, they're in, accountants, lawyers, and whatever they're doing. I was the only person in the world they knew that worked remotely. and I've got brought to, there's people that know way more than this, and they say, "Oh, can you come and teach us how to work remotely?" I'm like, "What do you mean you don't know how to?" And people didn't know they could get Zoom on their phone. And I don't mean that in a snotty way. It's just I couldn't believe how much of the world didn't work like that.
I know. I guess we're just in that bubble, and we have been for quite a few years. But on the flip side, there, Bernie, it's interesting how many people do really get what's happening and the opportunities there. And we've got quite a few legal people here in Newry who would work remotely and no longer have to go into court, for example. They can connect in virtually, and the amount of time and expertise that frees up is phenomenal. So it balances each other out. I just think we've still got a way to go.
And where do you think we need to go? Because there is a way to go, but like, is it educating the old school, or I mean, even that sounds a bit disrespectful, but like, is it proving the case, or is it educating people that are still demanding Derek comes in and sits at his desk?
I think it's educating and listening to on the same level. So educating maybe employers, but also a lot of the employers embrace it, but it's down to the employees to find their flexible workspaces. So it's helping them as well. So both sides.
I think that too, because there's one of the things we talk about a lot in the London Co-working Assembly is instead of, let me see if this comes out right, instead of like marketing your co-working space, is educating people on how to use your co-working space. Because even we were talking about this around the table here in Fento co-working, is even as a pretty confident, slightly introverted, middle-aged white male, I find it intimidating going into a co-working space. So if there's people that all their life have worked in an office and then they have to go into another type of office, and any type of change is traumatic. And if you've been in a job, you're not sure what's been going on with your job for the last few years, and the world, the luxury people like you and me have is we've been, doing the remote worky, co-worky, flexible thing for ages. So it's just part of what we do. But for someone else to adopt that is a massive learning curve. And
yeah, it is, because you've got a big trauma on quite a few fronts there. You've got your change environment, you've got new people, you've got new technology. You're not quite sure what your employer's thinking if you do work remotely. There's a lot going on there. But my advice would certainly be do trial days and get to know the member makeup, the different sectors, the personalities, and what you feel comfortable in, because there's so many different flex spaces that offer different facilities, different communities, that there's got to be one out there for you. It's just a question of researching.
that's the thing. There is, ladies and gentlemen, there is a co-working space for you. And I used to, people would say sometime, I know, 2016, 2017, somebody said something about a conference. Oh, we're going to have niche co-working spaces, and that's what we should do. And initially, I was like, no, everyone should be together. And now, actually, I think being able to go somewhere that is for you is really, really important. Unless it's like something that's really politically dangerous, having somewhere to go that's just for you is really important. Where can we find you online and listen to your podcast and all those type of end of podcasty questions?
Well, I'm on the website, the Hub Newry, 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 thehubnewry.com, and then on LinkedIn under Suzanne Murdock. Yeah, everything would be under LinkedIn and the web.
And shamelessly plug your podcast, please.
Oh, Powering Productivity. Everything you need to know about remote working, connections, expertise.
And who's that for? Who's your ideal listener, Suzanne?
Well, the ideal listener is very much the people who are interested in working from flexible workspaces. There's a few guests I speak to around the operator side of flexible workspaces as well. But yeah, the primary listener would be remote workers who could either be working from home, flexible workspaces, or a hybrid.
Lovely. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And if you Google London Co-working Assembly, and you can find the podcast there, and we're in Apple, Spotify, and all those things. And then if you go to the coworkingassembly.eu, there'll be a link in the show notes, and that will sign you up for the European Co-working Assembly newsletter. And we're popping up all over Europe. The next thing we'd like to get your attention to is the Workspace Design Show, which is in Amsterdam on the 11th and 12th of October. And we will be there running a few chats and panels around co-working and how to build a local co-working alliance. In the meantime, be careful out there. It is a jungle.